Gators Breakdown, the Gators fan podcast, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters, and you can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Early signing day is Wednesday, and we'll take a quick look at all the storylines heading into the big day as Florida looks to bring in the next crop of Gators. Before we do, remember you can find Gators Breakdown on newsforjacks.com/GatorsBreakdown. Also, catch us on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify. Hey guys, and this week's going to be jam-packed with early signing day coverage. 2 more episodes later on this week, so spread Gators Breakdown out there among Gator Nation. I'll have Will Miles and Bill Sykes on this week, so it'll be a fun, busy week getting a few perspectives to bring it all together here on Gators Breakdown, and you can find us on social media as well at on Twitter and Facebook at Gators Breakdown, so you can stay up to date on the latest Gators Breakdown release. You can probably hear my voice a little bit, kind of under the weather, but I'm going to get a little short episode here and then kind of preview early signing period before it comes about us on Wednesday. So bear with me with the voice. Luckily, was sick over the weekend, but we'll get it. I'll power through it. Luckily, it's not going to affect later on this week. I'm going to be all busy, and I'll be fully healthy by the time the Peach Bowl rolls around, rolling up in there to Atlanta for the game versus Michigan. But of course, this past weekend, big visits this past weekend on campus at Florida. Trey Sanders, of course, big-time 5-star running back at IMG. Down, Florida, Bama, Georgia, Texas, all somehow, some way, according to who you talk to, all feel good about getting the 5-star running back there. Visited Florida with his family. Of course, Umstead, his brother, on campus already on the team. Spent some time with him. Brought the whole family. You could tell how happy Mom was in the pictures with the family. Dad even put on a Gators uniform. Had some kids in pictures too. Probably, we'll see some family members there. So we'll see. Good time had by the family, and like I said, Florida feels good, Bama feels good, Georgia feels good. Texas, as an outlier out there, feels good as well. There's some reports out there that Texas could even be in this. So I don't know how serious to take that one there, but I wouldn't throw them completely out. But I think it's a Florida-Bama battle first and foremost. I do think Georgia made some way last week as well. So it's going to be interesting on Wednesday to see how it all plays out with the 5-star here. Be Florida's first 5-star if they can pull him in since consensus 5-star, composite 24/7 5-star since Martez Ivey, C.C. Jefferson back in 2015. So even more so, Trey Sanders kind of more for perception as well as getting a great elite skill player on the field. Also about perception of being able to recruit the elites to Florida right now. Also, this past weekend, 4-star defensive tackle. Hopefully, I can get this right here. Siaki Apu-Ika from Salt Lake City, Utah, defensive tackle there. Like I said, really impressed him and his family as well. He brought the whole family on the campus of Gainesville as well. Gave them a lot to think about. LSU's the main competition here, so Florida will be fighting it out for LSU for Ika's. That's how I'm going to say it. I've heard call him Apu, so we'll call him Apu. LSU will be the main battle there, of course. Maybe Oregon and Utah, the hometown Utah Utes as well there. But he was really, really impressed with Florida. Florida rolled out the red carpet for him as well this past weekend, much like they did Trey Sanders. He is a big priority there to get him on campus, a big fit at defensive tackle with what the Gators want to do. And really, really impressed his family. He came away really impressed with Florida when it was all said and done, from what I was told. So that's going to go down to the wire as well between Florida and LSU, mostly here, and we'll look for his services as well when he will commit early in the early signing period as well on Wednesday. So that's another guy to look out for as Florida makes way here. Another 4-star out of Lakeland, part of that Lakeland trio, offensive guard De'Ave Hammond. Part of that Lakeland group that the Gators want to bring in, of course, should be a Gator based off of everything we kind of been hearing and been told from this past weekend. So big time at a position of need, getting a 4-star offensive lineman in the fold. We'll see how it plays out on Wednesday there. Of course, I don't know how much the Summerall Zipperer recruitments play into his decision. I think he'll be a Gator either way, no matter what those guys decide to do. Yeah, but looking for Hammond to be a Gator on Wednesday. Good visit there this past weekend as well. All these guys that I just mentioned, Sanders, Apuika, and De'Ave Hammond, all were in town with the commits that were Chester Kimbrough, Deontay Marks, DeJuan Black, Jadon Hill, Naquan Wright, also all on campus this past weekend. Chester Kimbrough, nothing to worry about there. He's going to be a Gator Wednesday. Deontay Marks as well. They have shut it down completely. They're going to be Gators. DeJuan Black also, as I mentioned, on campus this past weekend. He will not sign early. Gators are going to wait on his test scores to see if he'll qualify academically to get into Florida. So he'll be one of those February guys we'll have to wait around on. Nothing to worry about there as far as him going anywhere else. As far as big-time schools, if it doesn't work out, maybe prep school, JUCO, something like that. But DeJuan Black, test scores come back good. He'll be a Gator when it's all said and done there. So away from the campus, away from Florida, news from this past weekend as well. The Lakeland duo, of course, I mentioned Summerall, Lloyd Summerall, Keon Zipper visited Miami this past weekend. And, you're going to hear, they visited Miami this past weekend. You're going to hear a whole lot of Miami talk coming out of that visit. While Zipper did look happy, social media posting pictures and all that, Miami is the biggest threat for him. If him and Summerall are not quite the package deal some think they could be, it would be because I think Zipper would be going to Miami. I think he'll be a Gator when it's all said and done. But that visit to Miami is the worry there. Summerall, I think took the visit just because it was already scheduled. And I think pretty much, I know he gave an interview. His mind's not made up yet. Still think he'll choose Florida Wednesday as well. Their defensive lineman, Derek Hunter. Crystal balls started flowing in this past weekend from Texas A&M to Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher out there, currently committed to Florida State. Not many people think he hangs on to that commitment. Most think it's a Texas A&M Florida battle. Some out there think the Texas A&M chatter is from his father's side and not necessarily him. So we'll see where that goes Wednesday as well when he makes his decision. So that's a storyline to watch out there coming up for Wednesday is Derek Hunter. A lot of those recent floods of crystal balls at Texas A&M may not be too much of an indication there, but it does let you know Texas A&M is a threat here as we head into Wednesday here. Big news that came out kind of late Sunday night, early Monday, is Chris Steele took an unexpected visit to USC over the weekend. If you guys listened to me just a week ago, and I put the episode out kind of previewing recruiting just a little bit, USC was the school, because his parents want him to stay close to home, was the school that still worried me the most. Now, was this type of visit to kind of appease the parents, give one last look to the in-town school, the school you were committed to at one point, to kind of make the parents happy, give it one last look? I can see that, but also it's still a worry because we know at one point he liked him so much that he committed to him. Decommitted, a lot of people thought Florida was the next school in line to get his services. And look, he'll make his decision Wednesday. We won't be able to find out until January 5th when he announces publicly at an All-Star game, but that's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on since he's coming off that USC visit. I still think Gator in the end as well for him. But the doubt, the threat is there from the USC side of things. Brennan Doorless, once he decommitted from Virginia Tech, was thought to be a shoe-in for Florida, now getting crystal balls to Oregon after a visit there. I think the question is, will he really go that far from home there, just being right down the road from Gainesville? The Gators want him. Dan Mullen really likes him. They've sold him on that already after his visit to Florida. So had a teammate commit to Oregon recently, so I think that's kind of why some thought there was crystal balls as well on the 24/7 Sports Network that were putting Doorless to Oregon. I think the question, as I mentioned, is will he really go all the way across country? Crystal ball has that Florida pull, been able to pull some guys to go all the way from Florida to Oregon. But many think out there that Doorless won't really, when it's all said and done, won't really take the trip from Florida out to California. So, early signing period, a couple of days away now. Recording this on Monday. And we got about 2 days left. You're going to hear a lot of stuff these next couple of days about where guys are going, where they're not going, who feels good, who doesn't feel good, who's got sources, who doesn't have sources. everything's going to be out there. It's a dead period right now. There won't be much communication out there, so you're going to hear a whole lot of rumors out there. So just keep your head on the swivel. Don't believe everything you hear, and just we'll wait till Wednesday here. But as of now, Florida has 18 prospects committed for the 2019 class. So 17 are planning to sign on Wednesday, as mentioned earlier. DeJuan Black will be signing in February as long as the test scores and grades are up to par for UF standards. And as we record here on this Monday, before the early signing period starts, the Gators class ranks 21st on the 24/7 Sports Composite, 10th in the SEC. And the Gators will definitely rise in the rankings on Wednesday. But of course, the question is just how much. And I still think the Gators get the Lakeland trio here. Going back to that, Zip, Summerall, Hammond. That gets the Gators up to the number of 20 for early signing day. That's if they get all the commits there that are signing early, get these three guys that gets Florida up to 20. Then the more questionable guys, that's in Trey Sanders, Derek Hunter, Brennan Doorless, Apuika. Get all five, and then that gets the Gators up to 25 signees. And look, that would be a great haul to pull all those guys in. No idea how all it plays out right now. Then look, there's Chris Steele out there as well. I mentioned the trip to USC, and while he's signing on Wednesday, it will not be announced until January 5th at an All-Star game. You get him, and that puts the number to 26 if you get all these guys there. If you want to go ahead and count DeJuan Black, because it's pretty safe to say he's going to be a Gator when it's all said and done, that gets the Gators to 27. So, that'd be a great finish and a really good class when it's all said and done. I don't think it quite gets there, but there is the possibility. I've maintained the entire time. I didn't think this class would be top 10. If you want to put a number on it, there's the possibility it could end up there, and I'll be pleasantly surprised if it does. I don't really want to harp on a ranking so much as to what position did you comparing it to what positions did you get and filling needs and where you finish relative to the competition you face every year. That's one of the more important things there when you look at the rankings, and what we'll be looking at Wednesday night when we kind of review what the Gators get. Getting stars and getting elites matter. You guys know I believe in that. I harp on it a whole lot. But I guess I tempered my expectations for this class to begin with. Now, this has to be the last class where this is a case of not filling a class with some of the top players in the nation and the state of Florida. Results on the field are there. There is a lot of tap talent in Gator-friendly areas coming up, and there's already a good base to start with the 2020 and 2021 classes. So, it's okay to get excited about those classes while acknowledging that, that class is still a year away. And I don't want to look forward too much and want to still concentrate on the 2019 class. That could still be a pretty good class. We'll see how it all plays out before we get too overly critical there. But, with the whole California strategy early and trying to make a nationwide approach, I think that put this class a little behind. And, they could finish with a bang. They could not. There, but still some good pieces, still some things to build around for this Gators program in dealing with this class, and how we gauge it when it's all said and done. And talking about gauging, I did want to gauge the fan base here and get your expectations heading in to early signing period now that all the visits are wrapped up. Let's get it started with a wise old guru at Guru 1039 there. Mr. T reference here with a GIF talking about pain, but he's talking about pain for our in-state rivals, and of course, we're mostly talking about Miami and FSU there and how they'll finish. We've seen some decommitments in the Miami class, some flips from the Miami class along the offensive line that has went towards Florida. FSU maybe reeling a little bit after the season they had, and what happens with Howell, the quarterback, visiting North Carolina late on Sunday. They may be losing their top quarterback commit in this class. So yeah. It could be when it's all said and done, Miami and FSU are kind of picking up the pieces on signing day and trying to scrounge some pieces up for their class. We'll see how it plays out there. But yeah, it would be nice to see Florida kind of take a stranglehold on in-state recruiting, and FSU and Miami having to kind of go through what Florida's went through in the last few years on the recruiting trail. Got Red Top, Dread Top here. Because I'm just praying that we end up in the top 15 by the end of the day. If we don't get at least that, then I see no chance of us even sniffing top 10 when it's all said and done. Yeah, when he's talking about when it's all said and done, remember this is kind of just the first step. And Florida will get a majority of their class here in the early signing period, but you still have to wait till February and some targets there. Mainly Kyer Elam there that the Gators are going to be looking for in February too. So there's some big time targets that are going to wait until this, but the early signing period will go a long way in determining what type of class Florida will be bringing in here. When you get all the final signees back there or going forward in February. Let's see. Chase Comas says I expect to land the Lakeland kids. I think we signed Steele. I feel Sanders is a toss up at this point. At the end of this, I want guys that are all in and want to be Gators. So yeah, of course, everybody's gonna be looking out for the Lakeland kids still. We'll just kind of have to wait till January to figure out there. Sanders is definitely a toss up. Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Texas. Kevin Kuzma at Chips and Queso. I expect to be satisfied but not wowed. That's kind of it's kind of probably where I'm leaning a whole lot too. I do like the pieces. I do like where Florida's going into defensive backfield potentially along the offensive line as well. You got brought another quarterback into the mix there. Dan Mullen has definitely transformed that position since he's been here. Maybe can be wowed if you end up with some of the big top targets we've talked about here in Trey Sanders and Siaki Ika there. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out there. But you're going to have to get the Lakeland trio, Sanders, Apu, and finish with a bang to wow a lot of fans out there. At Unbiased UF says, certainly the most clueless I've felt about any signing day. I've lost hope for a top 10 class, though. I think we finished around the same as last year. Yeah, and you can bring up a lot of people expect an improvement from year one to year two, and especially you've had a lot more time to visit recruits. You've had a lot more time to, well, of course, the whole thing coming into the season was showed on the field, and that would really help recruiting. And we tried to temper that expectation as much as we could here on Gators Breakdown, saying the on-field results may not necessarily help this 2019 class a whole lot. It would help future classes, and that's kind of the way it's trending right now. I do think it has helped a little bit, but not to the effect of what many thought. Look, our 9-3 season is good. You had a big win versus LSU at home. It didn't like that big spark to where Florida was going to make a run at the top 5. It was going to be very hard with how slow Florida started on the trail to ever get that high there. So, I think the on-field results do help, but for more 2020, 2021, and not necessarily this coming up class here. Heavy Metal Gator says, my expectations are to address needs in this class. I feel it would be a good class, not great. My expectations would be much higher for future classes, considering success Mullen will continue to have on the field. So there we go. It just kind of fell into what I just discussed there. So the Swamp Thing, need to lock down what we have and pull off a surprise or two if we hope to be inside the top 10. And, look, of course I know top 10. This kind of seems to be the magical threshold that we put there. Bill Sykes, like I said, we'll have him on later this week. The way he's kind of looked at it and kind of forecasting how teams will finish, he says 7 to 12 will kind of be lumped in all together. The numbers will be really close there. So, yes, it's nice to say you have a top 10 class, and it's definitely better to have a top 10 class than not have one. When you're that close in talent and numbers, coaching will eventually take over at some point. It's where do you finish among teams in your conference, and how far are you behind Alabama and LSU and Georgia? Those are the key things that we kind of have to look for when it's all said and done here. Josh Emery, such a hard prediction under a new coach. I'm honestly in the dark on this one. I feel it would be a good day, though. Yeah, and that kind of seems to be the common thought there. And I've seen some fans talk about this on social media a lot, is not as much as getting out as what we kind of noticed with Dan Mullen and his staff in dealing with recruiting, as much as what we heard from the last staffs as much. And I think there's some truth to that. And a lot of it's also because, hey, look, we're going after big prospects again. And this is kind of what happens there. Your big prospects don't tend to get out so much where they're going. Let it get out that, I mean, look, Trey Sanders is the perfect example. Kyer Elam's the perfect example. We don't know where those guys are going to go, and that happens a lot with the big-time prospects there. So I think in big boy recruiting, big-time recruiting, when you're going after these big athletes, these big-time guys, these big-time stars, when you come down to signing day and they're making their decision, you're going to be left in the dark until of course those guys announce and all that good stuff. So I think that is part of it. Is Jim McElwain, a lot of the time, when his class settled, he went after guys he could easily bring in, and we knew, and you're kind of seeing that a little bit with the early signing period, because that just changes some things as well. But McElwain settled. Mullen's not settling a whole lot in this class, and still going after the big names. So that's why I think why we feel so like we're left in the dark compared to the past staffs here. C3 at C3C Marks says it all hinges on what happens with the Lakeland trio. Yeah, and I've kind of said that too in talking to people today on social media. When I put this out, I went back and forth with a couple of you out there. And the Lakeland guys and Trey Sanders, don't get me wrong, it is important because they're so good. You want them on the field. But it's also important for perception of Florida. Yeah, we know about the 2020 start and how Florida's doing good there. But it's also, you can send the message if you somehow pull out the 5-star in Trey Sanders and get the guys that you're supposed to, many think you're supposed to get in this Lakeland trio, as well with Zipper, Summerall, and Hammond there. So a lot of this is perception as well. Go get those guys, and it kind of sends a message that, hey, look, Florida is on the rise in recruiting rankings. This class may not be where it's supposed to be, but they finished with a flurry after a slow start. And, of course, things to look out for, or a team to look out for in the future here. Peter Quinn says, seems Gators have lost a lot of steam since the flips of the 2 linemen from Miami. Most are saying Sanders even considering UF despite his visit. Still confident we cracked the top 10, and that was a question mark. I always saw this class around 10 to 12 anyway, especially after that slow start. I do think there is some credence to needing to show it on the field a little bit, but as I said, I kind of limited how much that would help. So that's one reason I couldn't put this class into a top 10 ranking. I wasn't sure how good the on-field results would be anyway, so that's why I never really dove into that theme of thinking too much. Also, I do think there is some relationship building from especially a lot of in-state kids where Florida was not the school that was first and forefront of their mind. You had Florida State, who basically come off some of their best years. You had Miami under Rick, who was recruiting very well. You've had Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama coming here, and actually with this class as well, still picking your best state talent here. That has to change coming up soon, and that's going to take some time to change. I think we kind of see it slowly. We're starting to hear some rumblings that a lot of these top-tier prospects are considering Florida, are looking at Florida, and that also, as I go back there, it says, he said this, it seems the Gators have lost a lot of steam. Well, I mean, not really. I mean, none of these guys that Florida had been bringing in these last couple of visit weekends, they were never going to commit. They had a timeline set. And would we have liked to see Florida wow them so much they come out of those visits committed? Absolutely. But it was never really in those guys' plans to come out of these visits committed. And, we can talk about silence all we want to. I don't put much stock into it. Mohamed Diabate, a Florida commit, says some silence happened. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out on Wednesday. But it's kind of just kind of how I see it there. I wouldn't put too much stock in the guys not committing these last couple visit weekends. One of the best Twitter names out there, Felipe Franks, talking about kind of the fake Felipe Franks here and the way he spells it. So pretty good play on words there. So elite recruiters never have sub-top 10 classes. Mullen is not an elite recruiter. He is an elite developer of talent. We all need to trust the process. The strategy with the O-line is brilliant. Numbers and continuity are the key. This will be the best offensive line in 3 years. Definitely putting up some numbers there for the offensive line, a position that we know Florida needs to improve on. They improved it so much with coaching this past season. Now trying to get a talent influx as well. Part of it, having these type of guys, and overall just better talent coming in as well. Mullen is not known as an elite recruiter right now. Can he develop that reputation at Florida? If he keeps winning, I think he can. With the positive mojo that's out there around the Florida program, I think that helps. But we'll see when it's all said and done. Before Mullen calls it a career at Florida, for however long that may be, if he can become known as a better recruiter or an elite recruiter. Ken Tillery says, I think we land Sanders, Steele, Elam, and Summerall for starters. Hoping to land more big gets with those two. Some fans, feeling good out there. I don't blame them. It is a good time to be excited. Kyle Walker says, if we missed out on Trey Sanders, it once again shows UF has failed to get a foot in the door at IMG. Yeah, IMG is one of those funny schools Florida hasn't really been able to take advantage of. They really point out, when's the last time you've seen an IMG guy come out and really blow the doors off, in college football? We'll kind of see there. I think Trey Sanders is one of those special guys there, can really take advantage of a running back of his caliber. That would be a good fit at Florida in the way Florida runs the ball. It would be nice to see Florida be able, with all the recruits that come out of IMG, it'd be nice to go in there and get a big-time 5-star prospect. And a couple more here before we go. Justin Wilkins says, number one, I think everybody in Twitterland needs a heavy dose of melatonin to calm themselves over the next few days. Florida will get who they get, and as long as the coaches are confident, I will be confident in who they take. I understand that blue chips are who you get to the big show, but it takes time to build trust in a coach's process once he takes over a program that has been in a tailspin since Tebow. Hard to sell the future in one season after watching that awful offense for all those years. If they want to be Gators, then I am happy. Go Gators. And I can see plenty agreeing and subscribing to that thought as well. Pretty much like I said, that's why I didn't expect a big class, big top 10, top 5 class this go around, is because I do think a lot of that, what Justin says there, holds a lot of weight there. So a couple more thoughts here. Getting Sanders would be huge. Don't expect him to sign with us, even though with all the family all for Florida, eventually the Gators need to start getting these caliber of players to compete with Bama and Georgia. I would love to be wrong on that prediction. Who dat Gator 228. All is well with me. Depth on O-line, linebacker, and DB is nasty as long as they all sign. If we can get Summerall and Ika, I'll be okay with the defensive line. I'll fill all these needs this year and get them with Savage. Next year we will get the skill position, a finish top 5. Mullen is off to a quick start. Last thought here. Something is holding us back. We had the monster on-field success, so that's not it. Could it be facilities? Could it be we're not offering enough gift bags up front like Alabama and Georgia? Could it be we're not selling them on being taken care of afterwards like Oregon? I think all that holds credence. A lot of those thoughts there. As we said, on-field success, we've dove into that. We can move past that a little bit. Facilities, maybe a little bit. I don't know. That's when I go back and forth on. It can this way. Facilities can play a little bit of difference when everything else is equal, and that could be a tiebreaker somewhere along the way. I don't know. I don't think it plays that big of a huge part, but I think it can play somewhat of a part. Could it be we're not offering enough gift bags up front like Bama and Georgia? I'll admit that's part of it. I'll leave it at that. But that's what happens in big-time college football. Not naive enough to don't believe that yes, it happens. It absolutely happens. But there, leave it at that. That's big boy college football for you. So all the thoughts out there. Thank you very much for sending in those tweets. A lot of fans excited for what we're going to get here in National Signing Day, and Gators Breakdown definitely will have you covered here. And so some more news over the weekend. Gators get 2020 commit from safety Rashad Torrance from Mariota, Georgia. Always nice to pull the kid from Georgia that has offers. I mean, it's some big-time offers, guys, here. Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame. Hey, look, there's the college football playoff teams there he's getting offers from, as well as Oregon, Penn State, Stanford, and more. 6 foot, 195 pound gives safety there gives Florida the 7th commit for the 2020 class and a class ranking of 3rd right now. So off to a good start for that class that can hopefully pull some more top elite talent. One commit that may rise in the rankings is athlete Kevon Lee, who really showed out running back as a top performer at the 2020 Recruits Legend Showcase All-Star Game. Was one for people who were there who wowed everybody. Physical type of runner. Can also make some people miss. Had a nasty spin move in that game as well. So Kevon Lee, tell you what, that's one you may see rise in the rankings. Already highly rated, but maybe when it's all said and done, even higher. Maybe around that top 50 range there. Hopefully when that 2020 class rolls around. So let's see. Before I go here, the Gators had some open to the public practices this past weekend as well in preparation for the bowl game versus Michigan. Felipe Franks has continued to look good in the same fashion that he ended the season with versus FSU, hitting some downfield passes and showing much more confidence and poise as he just gets more comfortable in this offense. Emory Jones, plenty of work as well, and we expected that with these early practices that tend to help develop the younger players in bowl season. He's been up and down, some really good throws at times, but still shows that inconsistency while being in limited reps behind Franks most of the year up until now. Now he shows he can make up for that at times with his legs, and that is still a threat he has over all the quarterbacks on the roster. Made numerous scrambles that resulted in some good gains for the offense, and the offensive line have seen Stone Forsyth get some time in on the first and second team left tackle spot, and he's done pretty well. Look for him to kind of maybe shore up that spot once Ivy leaves. So Stone Forsyth's getting a lot of playing time there, especially strong in the run game. Speaking of the run game here, both freshmen running backs, Damien Pierce, Iverson Clement, shown potential to be big contributors next season. And look, we already knew that about Pierce, of course, but I've liked Clement there as well, from going back to a year ago and his recruitment. But running back depth has hurt his playing time. He got moved to defense at one time this part of the year in the secondary when Florida was looking for some numbers, but that was quickly kind of erased when Florida got some guys back. And we saw him play in the Idaho game at running back there. So going to the defense before we go here, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson looked good, and his he's going to be looking good in his final few weeks as a Gator here, enjoying the bowl practices and being involved in a lot of plays. But it's been his fill-in, Amari Burney, that has brought it these practices, and also cornerback Trey Dean, who's proving that he can maybe fill in just fine at that third cornerback spot next season. Good coverage on Florida wide receiver so far. Him and Trayvon Grimes have been having fun jawing back and forth these practices there, and the jawing back and forth lasts a pretty good bit after a play or so, but minute going back and forth and joking with each other. So, but it's nice to see the players having some fun out there for these practices. Christmas music's playing, they're interacting with the fans, and even get to see some position changes, some position change fun. At the end of practice here, nothing serious, of course. You got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Vashawn Joseph are out there taking handoffs. P. Ryan is rushing into the backfield, laying the wood, playing some defense. Kroll's lining up at defensive end. So good on Dan Mullen to let the guys have fun while they can before they really start prepping for Michigan here in the next few days and get ready for the Peach Bowl. Some rumors going around out there. Michigan may be short even more players that are going to sit out in preparation for the NFL draft. We already know Rashawn Gary is. We'll see. The big rumor is Higdon, the running back, may be sitting out there. Maybe Devin Bush as well. So we'll see. I know Higdon's the name I've seen the most that people think he may not be playing. So we'll see. We'll see if they announce that. Maybe just Harbaugh playing some gamesmanship, and if those guys aren't playing, we may not find out till day of the game here. So what we have the rest of the week coming up here on Gators Breakdown. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter all day on Wednesday for the start of the early signing period. I'll be tweeting and probably doing a couple of live periscopes throughout the day. And then Wednesday night, I'll have Will Miles on to review the day. And then Bill Sykes will join me Thursday morning. Not sure the release schedule of putting episodes out so close together, but with Bill, it'll be out no later than Friday morning, but more than likely just go ahead and roll with it. Will Wednesday night, Bill sometime on Thursday morning, we'll get all those episodes out, so you will have plenty early signing day coverage here on Gators Breakdown. I know it's an exciting time for Gator fans out there to kind of figure out who the Gators are getting, what went right, what went wrong, and kind of looking forward of what these guys can do on the field. Some of our favorite players, and the storylines of the day, of course, will be following the Lakeland trio storyline and Trey Sanders as the top two storylines, I think, for the Gators on Wednesday for the early signing period, the start of the early signing period. Had that 3 days, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, most guys will go ahead and make their decision on Wednesday there. So, not much to look forward to on Thursday, Friday, but Wednesday, kind of everybody labeling it the early signing day, but it is a signing period that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that's what we'll have coming up here on Gators Breakdown, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun with getting together with Will and Bill and getting their thoughts for this 2019 class. I'm the host of Gators Breakdown, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thanks for listening to this episode of Gators Breakdown.